Hey everybody, my name is Zeb Welborn, President and CEO of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. I am with Chris Romer from the Vail Valley Partnership. Chris is one of the leaders in our industry. He does 1,000 different things. He's also does a fantastic job for his community, and he's been recognized with a whole bunch of awards by our various chamber organizations. So this is somebody who knows what he's talking about, who does great work and inspires a lot of other people. So I want to first off say, Chris, thank you for chatting with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Seb. I appreciate the that warm welcome and effusive praise that I don't know that I'm worthy of. And always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend.
Yeah, and I know we've done this maybe once or twice before, but I like to pick brains of people that are doing these things well. And so I understand that you have, actually, I know that you have some experience in handling this next topic, which is going to be from burnout to balance, reclaiming energy, purpose, and personal boundaries. In the chamber industry, it is very easy to get sucked into wanting to help all of your businesses and your community and making sure that you're always on 24/7. I know that when I started, so I started 7 years ago. I took over the chamber, and it was not my plan was I was going to do it part time while I was also running my business. There was no way that that happened. I worked constantly from sun up till sundown, and on weekends I would come into the office to catch up on things that I missed during the week. So I know that that's an easy thing to do, and I'm still doing that. I'm still doing that 7 years later. So one of the things that Chris has done a really good job at is setting boundaries. Also, he just has really good advice for other chamber professionals because this is something where we do have a lot of passion and desire to help and support people, but it's easy to allow that passion to take over sometimes. So with that, Chris, I wanted to first say thank you for chatting with me and willing to share your expertise today.
Yeah, thank you. And it's an important topic, and I think it's an especially important topic in today's environment when there's so much pressure, both internal and external, on ourselves that we place on our from our boards, from our communities. And I see a lot of my chamber colleagues um, who, frankly, struggle, and I've struggled sometimes. It's not. This is not something where I'm going to pretend to have all the answers, Zeb. I think that because I've been in my role for 19 years, and I've seen a lot of people churn through the industry, I'm happy to share some of the things I've learned from people, some of the things that I've done personally and that we've done at the partnership to really find that balance from burnout to balance and reclaim that those boundaries and reinvigorate that purpose so that it doesn't become so much that we throw our hands up and go to work for the local government or another nonprofit or whatever else, that we are able to retain people in this industry that we love so much.
Yeah, and I have a hypothesis before I get this started about kind of my experience. And when I started the chamber 7 years ago, I probably shared this with you before. It was struggling. They were losing money. It was on the verge of being just a volunteer run organization before I took it over. When I came into WACE, and I remember my first meeting going in, and I was talking like, my experience with the chamber was it wasn't run like a business. It didn't seem like they were putting in the effort or the quality that was there. And so that was something I was like, well, we need to treat this like a business in order to be successful. And by that, what I meant was that our chamber was struggling financially. They weren't doing the right financial decisions to get into a positive position as an organization and as a business. So therefore, it was struggling. But it takes work to get there. And so my hypothesis is that sometimes there is a buildup to allow you to get to a spot where you can devote more time into like a well-rounded persona. But that's something that I want to know if you had the same experience, because you mentioned you've been in here for 19 years. Did you have to build it before you're feeling comfortable to move into a spot where you are today?
Yeah, well, let's go back in time a little bit. So, like, fasten your seatbelt. We're in our DeLorean, our flux capacitor's working. We're going to hit 88 miles an hour, and we're going to go. We're going to go back in time. Much like you, when I was hired at Vail Valley Partnership, the board chair, when he called to offer me the job, he told me, he's like, "You need to fix it, because we're not hiring another CEO. If you can't make it work, we're going to close the doors." And that was coming from the board chair to a kid, basically, a young professional. And I was like, oh, great, no pressure, thanks. Like, you want me to take over this organization, and you're saying you're not going to hire anyone else if I don't fix it. It's going to close. That was 2007. 2008. People will remember what happened in third, fourth quarter of 2008. Is the whole world went to a bad place with the Great Recession. So we were at the point of like fix it or close. And within a year, the economy starts to collapse. All kinds of pressures on businesses and organizations and investor funding and other contract services and everything else as people start to pull back. And we had a real contraction. And then we built our way out of that in a very intentional way, programmatically, looking at how we solve community problems. And we were forced to change our entire value proposition, but right in the same vein of what you talked about we stopped treating the chamber like a nonprofit and we started treating it like a business. We started looking at our value proposition, much like a business needs to look at their value proposition. We looked at our team and our staff as valuable partners and not as transaction. We could just plug someone in. We started investing in professional development. We started investing in the individuals from the standpoint that's our customer facing model. So yeah, without going too much into the details, I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I 100% agree with your hypothesis and your thesis that we need to treat the organization like a business. We need to run the organization like a business does, and we need to be thinking, the old saying that folks have heard so many times, but is so true, that your 501c is just a tax status. It's not an operating model, right? We're not operating like a nonprofit. We need to think enterprise wide, and we need to think of what our actual product and service is and how we deliver on it in the best possible way.
Yeah, so just from you, like if you can go back in those early days, were you like me, where you were kind of working around the clock on the business or on the chamber itself? Do you feel like you have better balance now than you did at the beginning, or have you always kind of maintained something that you would call positive?
Oh no, I absolutely have better balance today than I did 19 years ago. I have better balance today than I did 10 years ago, and I probably have better balance today than I did 5 years ago. I think it's an evolution, and I think it's about constant improvement and continued awareness. We as chamber executives cannot be at the top of our game in taking care of our team and our board and our communities and our members if we're not taking care of ourselves. That needs to be at the forefront, both physically, emotionally, professionally. We need to do that, and I did not know that when I was a young chamber executive. I didn't. I was always worried about everyone else. I was always worried about what does my board think? What is the community going to think? What if someone doesn't like me? What if someone doesn't like a program? And I've grown in that regard of better understanding the need to focus on myself and my development, focus on my family, and focus on the deep relationships with the community and our advocates in the community, but never in lieu of focusing on the team and on our lives, right, and on our family. We talk a lot about family first, and we mean it. We have a internal unwritten policy that people never miss anything. They don't miss family events. You don't miss your kid's ballet recital. You don't miss a game. You don't miss a concert recital. You just don't miss. And if we see someone in the office when we know that they have that going on, we push them out, like almost literally, like, get out of here. You're not supposed to be here right now. You need to be, as much as you might not want to be at that recital of kids singing brutally and off key and everything else. You might rather be at work. You need to be there for your family first, because if you're not taking care of yourself in that, you're going to burn out. And I've seen way too many chamber execs who have had divorce and really unfortunate personal situations because they didn't focus on the things that are most important.
Yeah, so I know we're going to chat about. You've got some really cool policies that I've heard about since the time I've gotten since I met you several years ago. But is there a point in your development where you mentioned at the early stages you were kind of lacking balance, if you were, and then you've kind of gradually moved in this position? But is there a moment or something where you're like, hey, this really isn't what I should be doing? And was there a turning point for you, or was it a more gradual thing?
No, I mean, I want to make sure I'm answering your question in the context that you mean it. But no, there was a distinct point in time for me. And it's uh, when my kiddo came around, and I realized that um, that was way more important, to have a stable family life and to be present for my family and my child and my spouse than it was to be at the office until 6 or 6:30 or 7 o'clock or later, or it would be on my computer at home. So it was I was aware of the importance, and always tried to make sure there was time for recreation and time for taking care of yourself and time for personal professional development. Um, but it never really hit home and was real for me until I had a child and realized that you don't get that time back.
Yeah. And then you mentioned all of those things because I think another thing that we get sucked into as especially in the CEO role, but even as our staff members, you have the board to look onto, you have your staff to take care of, you have your community to take care of, and then you mentioned the health, uh, exercising, making sure you're of right body and mind. Um, how would you advise some of our chamber colleagues to? Because it is, I feel like it's a lot. It's a lot of things that we were juggling and that we're trying to maintain, and something always seems to get dropped in that scenario.
Yeah, so I go back to I think I used this term before, but it's appropriate here. It's about being intentional, right? It's about scheduling time on your calendar for mindfulness or recreation or exercise or reading a book or reading a blog or listening to a podcast. Being really intentional about those aspects. It's about being intentional about blocking your calendar to be at those family events and those things. It's about putting on do not disturb on your cell phone, so that your cell phone's not buzzing after a certain time, or after you're done for the day or whatever it might be. And the other part that I didn't appreciate in my earlier years, and now I tell everyone I talk to, every chamber exec I talk to, and at every opportunity, is you need to find your people. It is essential. You need to find that peer network, and you need to grow that peer network, and you need to nurture that peer network. And you need those 3 to 5 to 7 to 9, whatever the right number. I don't know that there's a pre-assigned number, but it's a handful of people that you could just pick up the phone, that you can send a text message to, and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this? Hey," and it doesn't even need to be related to the chamber. It can be, how do you balance this? How do you think about this? What's your favorite book that you've read? What podcast do you listen to? Hey, I read this, listened to this, saw this. What do you think about it in your community? And having that network of peers that are deep, authentic, real relationships that build into deep, deep friendships. This job can be really lonely, and I don't think we talk about that enough. When you're the only one in your community, you're the only chamber CEO in Chino Valley. I'm the only chamber executive in the Vail Valley, and the same thing's true in all of our towns. We're a little bit on an island, and we have others who are maybe a town manager, maybe a school superintendent. It's not that a hospital CEO. There's other people, and so maybe you do that across industry, but you need your chamber peers in other states and regions and cities and towns. And you need that network of people you can send a text to who will be empathetic and understanding and be someone to listen. And you can find that through WACE Academy. You can find that through U.S. Chamber Institute for Organization Management. You can find it through different cohorts, but you need to find it. I think that the people who don't find it are the ones who struggle the most,
Yeah.
because it can be lonely on that island, and then you're like Tom Hanks, and you're talking to a volleyball after 5 years, and it's really hard when you have your cohorts, and you're able to share successes and challenges and obstacles and bounce ideas. It makes this job less lonely, which is really important for our own mental health and our own success in our chambers.
Yeah. So one of the things, so my current board chair, he's actually written a couple of books on burnout and workers. So that's like his thing, right? So I was just talking to him, kind of confiding in a little bit about kind of how I feel about this role. Like one of the things I really do like about being a chamber CEO is I feel like I could make my schedule. So I'm not going to miss those kids' games and opportunities.
Right,
So
right.
I have the ability to make sure that whenever I need to, I can be there. Number one. Number two, I feel like for the most part, I have my evenings off, I have the weekends off, and I'm able to spend that quality time with the family. Be pretty consistent on that front. But one of the things that I also have found myself doing you're working all day, so you have this like this mental fog or this you're tired. You've been working all day and doing all this stuff, and that does eke its way into a personal, just personal life in general. So in terms of setting boundaries or like because I feel like I have that, but I'm working really hard for those the time that I'm in the office, and then I come home, and then it's like one of the things that I hate doing, and I've done it a few times, my daughter will come up to me and be like, Dad, will you play with me? And I never want to say no. But I did say no one time where I was just like, I am so tired. I don't. And then I'm like, oh man, I just regret that thing. So I have that experience where my daughter doesn't like want to play with me. And I'm like, I don't feel like I do it. I do it now. But those are some things that has come up over time. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all faced that. I think you're not unique in that exact situation, and I appreciate your vulnerability and being able to share that. But I think we've all been there. And if you don't have kids, maybe it's with your spouse or your parents, or canceling dinner plans with a friend or whatever it might be. But I don't know that there's a good answer, and I don't have a magic wand on how to answer that, other than like the I go back to that intentionality of like, maybe you need something that I've done before, on those long days, back to back meetings and stresses and everything. And I know I'm coming home. I'll take 30 minutes, and I'll just truly like sit and like mindfulness. The Calm app is something I've used. It's like a mindfulness app. It's free, with different programs, and you like just sit in the driveway 5-10 minutes, sit in the office for 20 minutes at the end, listen to music, reset, try to do it because you need to be on when you get home. You owe that to your partner, you owe that to your family, to your children. So no, I don't have a great answer for you, but I think it's a matter of recognizing that and understanding and taking a little time to do your best to hit the refresh, um, so that you don't catch yourself in those situations too much. It's always going to happen at some level, but too much.
Yeah. I agree. And then I know that when I didn't ask in our Facebook group or Chamber CEO Facebook group about does anybody have any experiences? So you kindly reached out and said, yeah, I love it. And I know you do a lot of really cool things with your employees, and that you have. It sounded like a system that you use, or maybe that's just an
Yeah,
acronym that explains something else. But why don't you share with me a little bit about how you do it at the Vail Valley Partnership?
yeah, we have. So again, a number of different strategies and tactics for this concept of um, balance and this concept of how we reclaim our purpose and set boundaries and focus on our own well-being so that we are able to reignite this passion for this work and community. I mean, one of the great things about working for a chamber is you get to have the entrepreneurial spirit for your community, right? And you get to help businesses and organizations, and you get to drive the vision of your community. So we have a program. I think we first implemented it in 2013, and we've revised and enhanced and evolved it over time. But it's called ROWE, ROWE. ROWE is results oriented work environment. And the concept of the program is that folks are judged on the results of their work and reaching their key metrics. They are not judged on their time at the office and the desk time. Our culture is embraces being accountable to the team and being accountable to your job and the results there within and the members and the businesses, but we're not accountable, and we don't check clocks. We don't we have flexibility on workspace if people want to come into the office or work from home. We have flexibility on the hours that people work to allow for time to go to yoga in the middle of the day, to go skiing on a Friday. I try to ski most Friday mornings. To be able to go to all those kids' games and events without anyone judging you of, oh, I work harder than so and so because I'm at my desk more. That's not our value proposition. So a number of components go into that results oriented work environment. Monthly goals, quarterly targets. You know, we have the metrics that people need to reach, be it membership or marketing, our workforce people, myself as the CEO. We all have our goals that are done on a monthly and quarterly basis. And we're accountable to those. We're not accountable to the clock. So it gives people flexibility, and it reinforces the importance of balance and personal boundaries. So that's the model for the program, right? Those are the guardrails. Within the ROWE program, we do a number of things, and I at the risk of just laundry listing, I'll hit a couple for you, and we can explore them a little bit. We have unlimited paid time off. Okay, and that that's a somewhat controversial thing in business and in chambers. We mean it. It's not a trick to get people never to take time off. We want and expect people to take a minimum of 5 weeks off during the year, right? Like that's the expectation. We don't track the time. We don't debit against them when they take an hour off for a doctor's appointment. You know, we've hire adults and we treat them accordingly. But we have the unlimited paid time off. That allows time and encourages people to do that. Within that, we offer an unplugged bonus. So when we talk about setting those priorities and those boundaries, our unplugged bonus for 2 weeks a year, we pay people 10% extra to take that time off without checking email, without checking voicemail. So when people unplug for 2 of their weeks off, they get paid extra on their paycheck, right? Which is pretty cool, right? It's something we started maybe 10 years ago, just because I saw people going on vacation and sending emails from the beach, or sending checking in on forwarding voicemails. Like, no, you're on vacation. You're not supposed to do that. So now we incentivize them to actually truly unplug by paying them extra. We do a thing that we call VVP, Vail Valley Partnership, VVP days, and we piggyback on our major holidays, Memorial Day, President's Day, 4th of July, Labor Day. And we offer the Friday before the holiday, we offer as an extra day, we close the office, right? So we're taking these 3-day weekends, we're making them into 4-day weekends to encourage people to go. Now, folks could choose to take that time on their own because we have unlimited paid time off, but we want to be really intentional as an organization that, hey, we mean it. We're gonna close the office. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see that you're working those days. And of course, people do because they're adults and they can do what they want. But it's not expected. There's no internal meetings. We celebrate those VVP days throughout the year. So again, this idea of intentionality and really trying to recognize and reward the fact that people work really hard and pour their hearts into it, and what we want them to fill their cups where they can.
Yeah, and so all of those sound like I mean, obviously really cool things from a team perspective. There, I think one of the challenges in talking with some of our chamber colleagues, if you will, is there's like the stress of the financial situation that many chambers find themselves in, where it doesn't feel like they have the capacity, the ability, I would say, or there's always that stress of I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my people, that financial, at least in my perspective, I want to make sure I'm taking care of them financially first, and then and then with the extra stuff additionally. Was it like uh is that something you experience? Is that something where you're like, you guys are good at Vail Valley? Is that something, how would you articulate that for other chambers who maybe would say like, that sounds great, but I just don't see that working for me or for this organization because, and I'd say more so it's more of the financial strains on the organization than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to budgeting and budget management, right? It's when you budget for the time, you're budgeting for your annual salaries and your benefits, and your salaries and your benefits don't change if you give people an extra day off or an extra week off. As long as they're accountable to the results, right? It goes back to the idea of the results-oriented work environment being the guardrails. If we're meeting our membership numbers and we're meeting our event goals and our programming engagement goals and our member investor goals, and we're delivering on that, it allows for some of that reinvestment in our people through time off and through closing the office on certain days and rewarding and giving them the ability to prioritize their well-being and take a morning for a yoga class or a morning for a ski day or a hike or a bike ride or whatever it is that people do, a golf outing. I think it's viewing it as an investment rather than an expense, right? I think back to the idea of the budget, but I mean, we're fortunate. We've had our challenges over the years from a budget standpoint, and I've done the cash flow stroll where I'm like hoping enough checks come in on Wednesday for me to make payroll on Friday. I've been there. Like I spent all of probably 2009 and 10 and 11 doing that almost like on a very regular basis. Like, oh, I better be calling these people because if that check doesn't come in, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll. So I get it. I've been there. We've been fortunate that we have built up reserves, and uh, we're in a good place now from a financial standpoint. But I would suggest that it's harder to truly reach that financial status if you're always worried about the financial status, right? Like if you don't take time for yourself and you don't allow your team to take the time, then they're less effective when they are at work. And when they're less effective than when they are at work, it impacts your member value proposition. It impacts your retention. It impacts the quality of your programs and the quality of your events. So by investing in your people on the front end, you're benefiting downstream through higher retention and better engagement and higher quality programs, more sponsor investor revenue, et cetera, because you've got a team that's rowing in the same direction.
Yeah. And then you mentioned setting the monthly and quarterly goals. One of the so we do like we implemented a system called OKRs, which is the folks at Google that put that together. So we use that. I am also speaking at the conference on standard operating procedures. So one of the things that was pointed to was oh man, I'm drawing a blank on it right now. The traction book, the work that
Oh
they
yeah, yeah,
do.
yeah. I'm familiar. It's EOM.
EOS,
Yeah,
Entrepreneurial
EOS
Operating
operating
System.
system.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm interviewing a lot of people that are doing that, and it's very similar to the OKRs type system. So when you're setting those monthly and quarterly targets, I think like one of the challenges that um, I have experienced is sometimes like we're starting programs or things from scratch, or sometimes we're adding a whole nother like wing or a whole nother area of stuff. And I don't know what that kind of capacity looks like or like how to even structure that. So when you're kind of setting these goals, like I know how it works for me as an individual, like I know what I'm capable of and willing to do. And I think managing or trying to understand what that capacity is from others in the work that they're doing and how they handle it has just been challenging to try to identify what that looks like. Um, so when you're setting those metrics and those goals, we do that internally in our organization, and I think to some varied modicum of success, where some people take those and run with it. I have others that aren't necessarily in that same boat. But how do you, when you have that system in place where you're setting those metrics and goals, like how do you structure that in a way that makes sense where you're like, I feel good about this. So, this is like where we're going. And that the team member that you're working with feels good about it too.
Yeah. It's a really good question, and I know a number of my friends who I respect so much who follow the entrepreneurial operating system, and it works really well for them. I'm less regimented than is my understanding of what that system calls for. In as point for that, when we're looking at programs and we're looking at goal development, our team, everyone sets their own goals.
Yep.
I'm not dictating the goals from the top down. People's managers are not dictating the goals down to their folks. Everyone is setting their own goals, and now they're doing it collaboratively and together, so that no one sandbags and that kind of thing. But we're people are setting their own goals, and so they're inherently setting the goals that they uh, think are both aspirational and realistic, right? It's not coming from me telling someone you need to do this and them saying, I don't have any authorship of this. So there's no way I can do this. And I don't really care what Chris says. I can't do it. So I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
Or Chris set the goals so low that I'm not going to push. Right. So they have ownership over it. And they talk with their supervisor and they talk with me, and we refine, and we have a whole, annually we sit down as a team. We go through every program and every event and everything that we do, and we rate it, and we look at the whole scope of work that our organization does, and we talk about value to members, we talk about the time involved, and we put it all on a chart and a whole matrix of what is high value, what is high time, what's high cost, and look at what programs do we sunset, what if we're adding something new, what are we taking away? So we're not just adding and adding and adding, knowing that time is limited, and we really want to make sure that things we do really well. That we are not interested in and I hope and think we have a pretty good programmatic track record of really having high impact programs. And we've sunset some things, and people, we sunset an event, gosh, 15 years ago, and I still have one or two members who are, oh man, I missed that event so much. Like, okay,
Yeah.
great, all right, I get it. I know you love that one. We're not going to do it again. It's gone. That thing left. So there's some of that, but I think it's a matter of, again, for us, people have that ownership. When they write the plan, they are invested in the plan. So and we talk as a team, to make sure that we have the bandwidth to do things well. And not just like the old Mikey Life cereal commercials. We'll give it to the partnership because they'll do it. That happens all the time. I'm sure it happens to you and almost every single chamber that might listen or hear this. Someone in the community says that's a great idea. The chamber will do it. Mikey will eat it, and we're not Mikey, right? We're not gonna eat the Life cereal if the Life cereal is not on mission and within the bandwidth of what we can do. And so we say no. Hey, that's a great idea. You should do that. It's great. Sometimes we'll say, you know what, that's a great idea. We're gonna look at how we do it right. And we take a little time and look at what we're not going to do anymore so that we can do that thing. But again, it goes back to this whole concept of where we started, which is really being intentional and really being, some of those things are where you pull in your peer network that I talked about before. And you make sure you're setting up your organization for success. You mentioned Google, and I'm sure that there's a lot of ideas that have been pitched to Google executives, and they're like, "That's great, nice, great." Like not our circus, not our monkeys. That's not within the business model of what Google does. And I think in the chamber business, we're so invested in being people pleasers that sometimes we forget that we need to be accountable to ourselves too. And we can't just say yes because a member said this is important. Sometimes it's, yeah, here's who I would connect you with to help address that. It doesn't need to be you.
Yeah. Yeah, let me ask you a couple questions on like kind of the nitty gritty of some things, like, so for you, and this is for you personally, what are some things that you feel like you do that prioritizes your well-being?
Yeah, so it's harder to talk about me than it is to talk about the chamber. I prefer talking about the chamber and the things that we do as an organization. For me, I'll give you a few. Number one, I try to exercise every day. I try to ski on. Number two, I try to ski on Fridays in the winter. I block my calendar. It's blocked on Friday until lunchtime. In the summer, it's blocked to try and go hiking or do something. So I'm trying to take that time for myself every single week, where I'm able to go do the things that are important to me and take time for myself. So number one, daily exercise. Number two, ski or hike once a week. Number three, I read. I like to read. I like to read fiction. I like to read nonfiction. I like to be aware of what's happening in the world. So I read. I'm reading everything I can get my hands on, and making a point to do that. And number four, and probably should have been number one if my wife is listening to this, but is time for family and making sure that that I'm setting an example for my team, that I'm present for events and family outings. And when my kiddo was in school, all of her games and activities and parent teacher conferences and all the things. But it's putting it on the calendar and being really intentional about it. It's, that's a couple of the things that I do to, and I guess the last one I would add for you, Zeb, is the is the network part. That idea of my peer network. That handful of people that I can send an Instagram reel to, send a note in a group chat, send a funny meme, and just touch base with on an authentic human level. And I value that, and I'll always try to respond or send a text message or whatever the case to make sure that we're watering those plants.
Yeah, and then on the boundary side, you mentioned like one of the things is like turning on the do not disturb thing, or some examples of that. What are some ways that you personally set boundaries?
Yeah. Well, the do not disturb is a big one. I try not to respond after business hours. On a text message, I'll answer the text message the next day. On an email, if I am checking or doing whatever, I'll schedule it to go out the next day. So I have a lot of emails that get sent between 8 and 9 a.m., right? That I might have written at 6 or 7 p.m. That I'm trying to respect the time and trying to set those boundaries and those expectations, knowing that everyone works at different times and whatever the case. But I think it's just a matter of, I wish I had better answers for you. And I don't know that I have any specific thing other than just trying to be present and trying to be intentional about, I'm not going home from the office and plugging in my laptop at home and continuing to work, right? I put the laptop away. It often stays in my bag, right? I don't even take it out of my bag when I get home. Just the little tricks of, like, it's less of a temptation if it's not sitting on the desk, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how do you do that? Now, sometimes things pop up and sometimes we're needed and you don't want to have your computer at the office. So that's fine. Take it home. No qualms, no problem. But put it in your bag, right? Don't take it out of your bag. So I think it's just what works for you and setting it up and setting the example for your team and your community. And I think that's, I had a past board chair who emailed me yesterday or texted me yesterday on a Sunday morning. It texted me, hey, when you have 5 minutes, give me a call. I called him today, right? And I wasn't going to call him back on a Sunday. Friend of mine, longtime member, huge advocate for the chamber. I don't need to jump on a Sunday, and he doesn't expect me to jump on a Sunday, right? Because he knows how I operate, but that's when it worked for him. So fine, I don't begrudge him that. But I called him back today, right? So it's you often you train people how to treat you, and I think we again have the inherent people pleasing gene. Like
yeah.
we want people to know we care. We want people to know, and they do. It doesn't mean we need to call them back on a Sunday. It means that it can be a Monday. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. They'll respect that.
Yeah, I think this is just me personally. Like I have this, and I'll just look at my email inbox for example. It's not so much I'm eager to get back to people, but I also get a lot of anxiety when I know I have like this long list of stuff that needs to get tackled. So I try to get stuff done as quickly as possible, so that way it's off of my plate and moved on. But then at the same time, it means I'm operating at a more frantic pace than I probably should be.
Yeah. There's an old saying, and we talk about it a lot of the time in the office here. It's about how do you eat the frog? You got to eat the frog, right? So like, what does that mean? It means like do the hardest thing in your day, do it first.
Yeah.
Like the thing that you dread the most, if it's going through your inbox, if it's a slide deck for a presentation, if it's the budget, if it's an event plan, if it's whatever it is, like do that thing first. The rest of your
Yeah.
day is a lot easier when you eat the frog. Like eat the frog. It would just do the hard thing. And it turns out the hard thing often isn't that hard, you know. The old joke like, oh, my wife asked me to clean the garage, and that project took me an hour, and I don't know why she was bothering me about it for 6 months, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
eat the frog, like do the thing, take the hour at the beginning of your day to do the hard thing. And I think it's something that has helped me personally and professionally to try and I block my calendar the first hour of the day and the last hour of the day. I block it. It doesn't mean that there's not things that might pop up that I'll plug in, but I'll do it as because I want to, right? I'll
Yeah.
plug something in at the beginning of the day or the end of the day because I want to have that coffee meeting, because I want to be on that webinar, because I want to have that conversation. But every day, first hour and last hour is just blocked on my calendar. My team knows, we share calendars. No meetings for Chris.
Yeah.
And it's my time to look at my calendar and be really intentional about my day, to do the hard thing, to read a little bit, to do a little mindfulness, um, whatever the case might be. And that's a time management hack that I learned a long time ago. Is like you need to put it on your calendar, otherwise it fills. So just block the time for no meetings, listen to a podcast, read a book, um, do the slide deck, whatever it is. For me, it's much more real when it's written. Like once it's written, I want to cross it off, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't put it on the list, it just is floating out there, and that causes me more stress.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let me ask you a couple more. Burnout. So, like, do you ever feel like in your time at the chamber you've had experienced burnout?
Yeah. Yes. I think that we all have. I think probably for me earlier in my career versus later in my career, as a general thing, but there's times, there's sometimes it's macro factors, right? It's bigger things that are outside of our sphere of influence, and be that geopolitical, or be that pandemics, or be that community emergencies, natural disasters, those types of things, where you have a rush of activity and you feel a real internal desire and need to solve a problem that is bigger than you, right? Like as chamber executives, we can't solve natural disaster things in our communities. We can't solve homelessness. We can't solve housing. But if we change our mind frame from those that we're going to solve these things, geopolitical, macroeconomic, natural disaster, mother nature related, community, and we change our mind frame from I need to solve this problem for my members, I need to solve this problem for my community, and we say instead, what does it mean to solve the problem? It means that we're going to make it better, right? Fix means make better. It doesn't mean it just ends. The work that we do in chambers, the end zone will always move. Like no matter what great work we do on workforce, on childcare, like it's not just one day going to just be gone and be done. And we say, oh, we did it, we fixed it. Look at us, yay! But we can make it better. And if we change our mentality to think about solving community problems means to make them better. We are making our workforce system better. We are making our transportation system better. We are making our business environment better. We are making the homeless situation better. We're helping the business regulatory environment by making it better. Um, I think that that really helps with um, the burnout aspect because we're not putting all the pressure in the world on ourselves for these things that are often out of our control.
Yeah, well, Chris, thank you so much for sharing all those insights with me. Before we end, is there anything that you would like to share that maybe we didn't discuss on this topic on going from burnout to balance?
Yeah, I'll share one other thing, Zeb, and appreciate. I should have probably talked about it earlier when we were talking about the things that we do, but I didn't want to laundry list just everything. But the one other thing I would add and would encourage other chambers to look at and to research is a sabbatical program. So we have a sabbatical program after 5 years of service. People get a month off, paid, fully paid, unplugged, and every 3 years thereafter, they get a sabbatical. So we're trying to reinforce that balance aspect, that purpose, that boundaries, and really focus on people's well-being. So at 5 years, we have the 4 weeks. Every 3 years thereafter, 4 weeks, and it's been really well received. The team loves it. We've had a number of businesses and organizations in our community that have started doing it since we have. So we're leading by example a little bit and showing a path of mindfulness and appropriate balance for our community at large. And now many businesses in our community do it. And we were not the first. One of our banks did it, a few others, but big scale organizations. We're the first of our size, and really now it's almost commonplace. So that's one that I would add.
That's just, I know there's been talk about a lot of that in chamber industries. I saw, like Cami post mentioned that at
Yeah,
one of our events, and then I just saw a posting from one of our other chamber colleagues,
yeah.
Valerie, today about her taking hers. Um, so yeah, and that's something that we are exploring here as well. So I'm working on that also.
I highly encourage it.
Yeah. Anything like from a sabbatical standpoint, this is what I'm assuming it is, but I could be like, for college professors, if you will, they take their sabbatical. They're learning something or they have some kind of workload that they're doing, but it's just
Yeah.
different from the day to day. It's identifying something you're going to be working on and tackling. Is that how you guys are structuring the sabbaticals, or is it really just time off and do whatever you want?
Time off, just
Yeah.
time off.
Yeah.
It's just taking 4 weeks to do whatever it is that fills your cup, right? Like, and someone who went to Europe for 4 weeks and traveled around with her family. I had someone else who took a week and went to the beach by herself, and then used 3 weeks to declutter her house. Um, I did a national park tour. Everyone does their own thing, and I had one person who just spent time with his kids and did all the handyman honey-do lists at his house.
Uh-huh.
It's completely up to everybody, but the expectation is you're not checking in, we're not bothering you, you're not coming to the office, your email's turned off, all those things.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I always appreciate you. You always, well, you're an inspiration to many. You do awesome things, and I learned so much from you. And I did want to say thank you, since this is mostly going to be between you and I, but it will be on the YouTube channel. Just thank you for helping me and my team when we were nominated for Chamber of the Year. You came in and consulted with us and tried to help us win that one. So that meant a lot to me and it meant a lot to our team here. So I just want to say thank you and thanks for all you do for all of our chamber colleagues and the people you do. You just do so many wonderful things, and it's an honor to be connected to you. And I look up to you a lot.
Well, Zeb, I really appreciate it. That means a lot. And it's my pleasure. I mean, part of what fills my cup is the people in the industry and my friends, and colleagues at chambers around the country. So it's my honor, and I'm deeply appreciative of your kind words and your friendship. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Have a great rest of the day, and I'm sure I'll see you in a couple months, if not sooner.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you in February at WACE, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds good. Thanks, Zeb.
See you, Chris.
Okay,
Bye.
appreciate it. Bye.